3 days after the Indomitable's sacrifice, the battle for Kepler 442b was over. The remaining Korthak ships had fled the system, their forces broken and demoralized. What had begun as an easy conquest had turned into a nightmare that would be remembered throughout the Empire for generations. Yuna Kim stood in the ruins of New Haven's Central Plaza, surrounded by the wreckage of both civilizations. Korthak dropships lay scattered like broken insects among the fallen crystal spires of Althari architecture. The beautiful gardens were torn and burned, but new growth was already beginning to show through the ashes. Admiral Jisoo approached from the temporary command post, her arm in a sling and her face bearing new scars from the final battle. She had survived the Indomitable's destruction, but barely. Of her original crew of 800, only 143 remained alive. The casualty reports are in, Jisoo said quietly. We lost 657 crew members. The Althari casualties are harder to count. Yuna closed her eyes. How many? Approximately 400,000 civilian deaths. Most of the major cities were heavily damaged or destroyed. It could have been worse, but it's still 400,000 people who died because we asked for help. Yuna finished. No, Admiral Jisoo said firmly. 400,000 people who died because the Korthak are monsters. Don't blame yourself for fighting back. Captain Minho had also survived, though he walked with a limp now from injuries sustained during the ground fighting. He joined them in the plaza, carrying a data pad with reconstruction estimates. The good news is that most of the mining infrastructure survived, he reported. The Korthak were careful not to damage what they wanted to steal. The dilithium extraction facilities are mostly intact. Elder Minji, who had taken over leadership after Elder Taiho's death in the bombardment, approached the group. Her silver skin was marked with ash and sorrow, but her large eyes held a new strength that hadn't been there before the war. The Council has made a decision, she announced. We want to join the Human Alliance. Admiral Jisoo looked surprised. Elder, that's a significant step. The Alliance requires member worlds to contribute to mutual defense. That means building weapons, training soldiers. We understand, Minji replied. We've learned that the universe is not as peaceful as we believed. There are others like the Korthak out there. Next time we want to be ready. Hyun, who had become one of the most effective guerrilla fighters during the resistance, nodded in agreement. The humans showed us that being gentle doesn't mean being helpless. We can protect our way of life by being willing to fight for it. Dr. So-young looked up from her medical station where she was treating wounded Althari civilians. The psychological impact of the war will take generations to heal. The Althari have lost their innocence. They've seen what beings can do to each other. But they've also seen what beings can do for each other, Yuna pointed out. Humanity came here knowing they would probably die. They did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. Pilot Yunji, one of the few surviving fighter pilots, joined the conversation. The Korthak fleet is spreading stories about what happened here. They're calling it the human madness, the willingness to fight impossible odds for strangers. Good, Admiral Jisoo said with satisfaction. Maybe the next species they consider attacking will think twice. Commander Kiwoo approached with a group of Althari engineers. They had been working with the human survivors to analyze the wreckage and understand the technology that had saved them. We've been studying your quantum weapons, he said to Admiral Jisoo. The science is incredible but also terrifying. These weapons could destroy entire worlds. That's why we don't give them to everyone, Jisoo replied. Power like that requires wisdom and restraint, and trust, added Captain Minho. The Alliance shares advanced technology only with species that have proven they can be trusted with it. Yuna walked to the edge of the plaza where a memorial was being constructed. Names were being carved into black stone, both human and Althari, soldiers and civilians, adults and children. All the people who had died in 3 days of violence that could have been avoided if the galaxy had been a kinder place. Do you think it was worth it? She asked Admiral Jisoo, who had followed her. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, studying the names on the memorial. Ask me in 100 years, she said finally. When the Althari have built new cities and raised children who grew up free because of what happened here. When other peaceful species are still alive because the Korthak learned that genocide comes with a price. The children will ask questions, Yuna said. They'll want to know why gentle people had to learn to kill, then tell them the truth. That sometimes the only way to protect innocence is to sacrifice it. That the strong have a duty to protect the weak. even when it costs everything. Elder Minji joined them at the memorial. In our culture, we have a saying, "The garden grows strongest where blood has been spilled." We never understood it before. We thought it was just poetry. Now you know, Admiral Jisoo said sadly. Beauty and peace exist because someone is willing to pay the price for them. The sun was setting over New Haven, casting long shadows across the damaged but surviving city. In the distance, construction crews, both human and Althari, were working to rebuild what had been destroyed. The crystal spires would rise again, but they would be different this time, stronger, protected by those who understood the true cost of peace. Sergeant Wu Jin approached with the final casualty report from the ground fighting. The Korthak lost approximately 15,000 troops, he reported. They left behind enough equipment to outfit our new defense force. Ironic, Minho observed. They brought us the tools we need to prevent this from happening again. That's humanity for you, Admiral Jisoo said with a bitter smile. We turn our enemies' weapons against them. It's what we do. As night fell, both species worked together in the ruins. Humans shared their knowledge of warfare and technology, while Althari shared their wisdom about healing and growth. It was an unlikely partnership born from tragedy, but it was real and strong. Yuna stood with her friends, both human and Althari, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, other peaceful worlds were sleeping safely tonight because a message of distress had been answered by beings who understood the value of protecting the innocent. The price had been terrible. Hundreds of thousands dead, a civilization changed forever, innocence lost that could never be recovered. But the alternative, a universe where kindness was seen as weakness, where the gentle were prey for the violent, would have been far worse. They believed no one would come, Yuna said quietly, remembering the despair of those final hours before the human ship arrived. But someone did, Admiral Jisoo replied, and that makes all the difference. The memorial continued to grow as more names were added to the Black Stone. Heroes and victims, warriors and peacekeepers, all of them part of the story that would be told for generations. The day humanity arrived with a deadly ship and showed the galaxy that some fights are worth the cost, no matter how high that cost might be. In the end, that was humanity's gift to the universe. The knowledge that someone would always come, even when the odds were impossible, even when the price was everything. The Indomitable's final quantum torpedoes struck the Korthak flagship just as its massive guns were about to fire. The bridge of the enemy command ship vanished in a ball of white-hot energy, taking Commander Vex and his senior staff with it. The great vessel began to drift, its command structure destroyed, but the human warship was dying too. Admiral Jisoo felt the deck shake as explosions tore through the Indomitable's hull. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and emergency lighting cast red shadows across the bridge. Hull breach on the main reactor level, reported Chief Engineer Nari over the crackling comm system. We've lost primary power. How long do we have? Jisoo asked. Maybe 10 minutes before the reactor goes critical. Captain Minho looked at the tactical display, which showed the remaining Korthak fleet closing in on their position. Admiral, we need to evacuate the ship. Jisoo shook her head. We're not done yet. She activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the Admiral. Prepare for emergency separation. All non-essential crew to the escape pods. Engineering teams begin overload sequence on the reactor. Sir? Minho asked, confused. We're going to ram their supply depot, Jisoo explained. Nari, can you give me enough power for one final burn? The chief engineer's voice was grim but determined. I can give you everything we have left, Admiral. It won't be pretty. Throughout the ship, crew members followed their training. Some made their way to escape pods while others stayed at critical stations. They all understood what was happening. The Indomitable would die, but it would take as many enemies as possible with it. On the planet below, the battle was taking a different turn. Sergeant Wu Jin led a small team of human marines who had deployed in drop pods before the main battle began. They found the Althari people hiding in caves and mining tunnels, terrified and confused. We're here to help, Wu Jin told Yuna Kim when they found the colony's command center deep underground. But we need your people to fight back. Fight? Yuna looked at the heavily armed human soldiers. The Althari don't know how to fight. They're peaceful. Then we'll teach them, Wu Jin said. The Korthak ground forces are landing all over the planet. If we don't stop them, they'll find these caves and kill everyone anyway. Commander Kiwu stepped forward. What can we do? We have mining equipment, some construction vehicles, but no weapons. Mining equipment can be weapons, Wujin explained. Explosives for controlled demolition can destroy enemy vehicles. Industrial tools can damage their equipment. You know this planet better than they do. That's an advantage. Dr. So-Young's voice came through Yuna's communicator from orbit. The Althari mining network extends throughout the planet. You could use the tunnels to move unseen, strike at their supply lines. Yuna felt something stirring inside her, the human part of her heritage that her mother had described in stories. The part that didn't surrender, that fought even when victory seemed impossible. Show us how, she said to Sergeant Wujin. In space above, the crippled Indomitable was making its final run. Admiral Jisoo had targeted the largest Korthak supply ship, a massive vessel that carried ammunition and fuel for the entire fleet. If they could destroy it, the enemy would be stranded in this system. Incoming missiles, reported Tactical Officer Dongyun. They're trying to stop us. Too late, Jisoo said grimly as she watched the supply ship grow larger on the screen. The impact shook both vessels. The Indomitable's reinforced hull punched through the supply ship's armor, and both ships began to die together. Emergency force fields failed, atmosphere rushed into space, and secondary explosions began tearing both vessels apart. All remaining crew, abandon ship, Jisoo ordered. That's a direct order. Most of the bridge crew made it to the escape pods, but Jisoo stayed behind with a skeleton team to make sure the reactor overload completed successfully. They watched on the emergency displays as escape pods ejected from their dying ship. The explosion, when it came, was visible from the planet's surface. A new star bloomed in space as the Indomitable and the Korthak supply depot died together, taking a dozen nearby enemy ships with them in the blast. But the sacrifice had given the defenders what they needed most: time and hope. On the planet, the resistance was growing. Yuna Kim led groups of Althari through the mining tunnels, teaching them to use their gentle nature as a weapon. The Korthak expected resistance to be violent and direct. They weren't prepared for silent, invisible opponents who struck from nowhere and disappeared again. The enemy patrol just past Tunnel 7, reported Hyun over the communication network they had established using mining equipment. Collapse. The entrance behind them, Yuna ordered. Trap them in the dead-end section. Controlled explosions brought down carefully selected tunnel supports. The Korthak patrol found themselves sealed underground, cut off from their main force. Panic spread through their ranks as they realized they were alone in an alien environment. Pilot. Yunji had survived the Indomitable's destruction and was now leading what remained of the human fighter squadrons. Her small group of craft harassed the Korthak fleet, using hit-and-run tactics that the enemy found impossible to counter. They fight like insects, she reported to the ground forces. All organized formations and rigid tactics, but they can't adapt when we do something unexpected. The human way of war was spreading to the Althari defenders. They learned to use deception, to strike where the enemy was weak, to make every resource count for maximum damage. The gentle people who had never known violence discovered they had talents they never knew existed. Commander Kiwu led a team that captured Korthak communications equipment. We're intercepting their battle reports, he told Yuna. They're requesting reinforcements. The fleet commander is dead and they're losing control of the ground operation. How many humans are still alive? Yuna asked. Maybe 200 from the Indomitable's crew. A few dozen Marines? Not many, but it's enough, Yuna said. She was beginning to understand what her mother had meant about human determination. It wasn't about numbers or weapons. It was about never giving up, no matter how bad things looked. Elder Taiho found her in the command center, his usual gentle demeanor changed by what he had witnessed. The humans taught us something today, he said quietly. What's that? That sometimes to protect what is good and beautiful, you must become something terrible and dangerous. Yuna nodded. My mother called it necessary evil, the willingness to do dark things so that light can survive. Above them, the battle continued in the ruins of the Korthak fleet. The enemy still outnumbered the defenders, but their confidence was shaken. They had expected an easy conquest of a peaceful world. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to appear from nowhere, strike without mercy, and vanish before they could respond. The Althari were learning what it meant to be human, not the gentle stories of art and culture, but the harder truth of humanity's capacity for violence when protecting the innocent. The Korthak had come expecting to face gardeners and dreamers. They found themselves fighting something far more dangerous, gardeners and dreamers who had learned to bare their teeth. The HMS Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, with a flash of light that announced humanity's arrival. Admiral Jisoo stood on the bridge studying the tactical display that showed the massive Korthak fleet in orbit around the peaceful planet below. "Status report," she ordered. 52 capital ships. "Admiral," reported Captain Minho from his tactical station. "They're in standard bombardment formation. The planet's major cities are already under attack." On the main screen, Jisoo could see the flashes of explosions in New Haven's atmosphere. The Korthak were destroying everything beautiful and gentle that the Althari had built over generations. "Sir," called Lieutenant Commander Jinwoo, "we're receiving a communication from the Korthak fleet commander. Put it through." The clicking, harsh voice of Commander Vex filled the bridge. "So, the humans have sent one ship to die for these weak creatures. How touching. Surrender now and we might let you watch before we execute you." Jisoo stepped forward, her voice calm and steady. "This is Admiral Jisoo of the Human Expeditionary Force. You have attacked civilians. You have 30 seconds to withdraw your forces and leave the system." Cruel laughter came through the speakers. 30 seconds? Human. You face the might of 50 warships with your single vessel. What can you possibly do to threaten us? "You're about to find out," Jisoo replied. She turned to Captain Minho. "Initiate Protocol Ragnarok." Throughout the ship, red lights began flashing as the crew prepared for the most extreme battle doctrine in human military history. Every person on board knew what it meant. They would fight until the ship was destroyed, taking as many enemies with them as possible. All hands. "This is the Admiral," Jisoo announced over the ship's communication system. "We are outnumbered 50 to 1. We are probably going to die today, but we're going to make sure the Korthak remember this moment for the rest of their miserable lives. Show them what happens when they attack innocent people." Chief Engineer Nari's voice came over the comm from the engine room. "Admiral, I'm pushing the quantum drives to 120%. We'll have maximum power for about 30 minutes before the systems start failing." "That's all we need," Jisoo replied. The Indomitable began moving toward the Korthak fleet at maximum speed. On the bridge, every officer was focused and calm. They had trained their entire careers for moments like this. "First target?" asked Captain Minho. "Their command ship," Jisoo said. "Cut off the head." The massive Korthak dreadnought sat in the center of their formation, its dark hull covered with weapon ports and armor plating. It was 3 times the size of the Indomitable and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. "They're not moving," observed Dr. Soyoung. "They don't think we're a threat." "Their mistake," Jisoo said grimly. The first Korthak ships to react were the outer escorts, smaller vessels designed to intercept enemy fighters and missiles. They moved to block the Indomitable's attack run, their weapons charging with purple energy. "Jinwoo, prepare quantum torpedoes," Minho ordered. "Full spread." "Quantum torpedoes armed and ready, sir." "Fire." 6 bright projectiles streaked from the Indomitable toward the Korthak escorts. The enemy ships tried to dodge, but they had never faced quantum weaponry before. The torpedoes passed through their shields like they didn't exist, then exploded with the force of small stars. 3 Korthak ships vanished in brilliant flashes of light. The others broke formation, their crews shocked by weapons that could ignore their defenses. "Impossible," came Commander Vex's voice over the communication channel. "No weapon can penetrate Korthak shields." "You've never fought humans before," Admiral Jisoo replied calmly. "We specialize in impossible." The Indomitable continued its attack run, weaving between the wreckage of destroyed enemy ships. The larger Korthak vessels were turning to face them now, their massive guns tracking the human warship. "Incoming fire," announced Tactical Officer Dongyun. "Multiple plasma torpedoes, sir." "Evasive maneuvers," Minho ordered. The ship twisted and rolled through space, dodging the incoming weapons. Some hit the Indomitable's shields, causing the lights to flicker and the deck to shake. "Shields at 80%, reported Nari. "Return fire," Jisoo commanded. "All weapons." The Indomitable unleashed everything it had at the nearest Korthak cruiser. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, and railgun rounds hammered the enemy ship. The Korthak vessel's shields failed. Then its armor cracked and split. Atmosphere and debris spilled into space as it died. That's 4 enemy ships destroyed, Donghyun reported. 48 to go, Minho said grimly. The Korthak fleet was fully aware of the threat now. Ships that had been bombarding the planet turned to face the Indomitable. The space around the human vessel filled with enemy fire, plasma bolts, torpedo spreads, and beam weapons that could cut through asteroids. They're surrounding us, Dr. So-young observed. Good, Jisoo said. Means they're not shooting at the planet anymore. The Indomitable danced through the killing field, its crew working with perfect coordination. Jinwoo fired quantum torpedoes at priority targets while Nari kept the engines running beyond their design limits. Dongyun calculated firing solutions while Minho orchestrated the ship's movements like a deadly dance. Another Korthak ship exploded as quantum fire found its reactor core. Then another as railgun rounds punched through weakened armor. The human vessel was taking damage. Scorch marks on its hull, fluctuating shields, sparks from damaged systems. But it kept fighting. "Sir?" called Jinwoo. "We're running low on quantum torpedoes. Maybe 6 left." "Then we make them count," Jisoo replied. She studied the tactical display, looking for the best targets. The Korthak command ship was still there, apparently protected by its escort vessels. But there was a gap in their formation where destroyed ships had left an opening. "Minho, can you get us a clear run at their flagship?" Captain Minho studied the display for a moment, calculating angles and distances. "It would be a suicide run, Admiral. We'd have to go right through their defensive line." "Do it." The Indomitable turned toward the enemy command ship, accelerating to ramming speed. The Korthak escorts opened fire with everything they had, but the human ship pushed through the wall of destruction. "Shields failing," Nari reported. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7. "Keep us together just a little longer," Jisoo said. The command ship grew larger on the main screen. Jisoo could see weapon ports opening along its massive hull, preparing to destroy the approaching human vessel. "Jinwoo, load our remaining quantum torpedoes. Target their bridge. Sir, at this range we won't survive the explosion." Jisoo looked around the bridge at her crew, these brave people who had followed her into impossible odds to save strangers on a distant world. "Then, we take them with us," she said, quietly. The final moments stretched like hours. The Korthak flagship filled the screen, its weapons charging with deadly energy. Behind them, the rest of the enemy fleet was closing in. But the Indomitable had bought precious time. On the planet below, the Althari people had seen the battle in their sky. They knew someone had come to help them, even against impossible odds. And in the depths of space, the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, and they were nothing like the gentle Althari. When pushed to fight, humans became something that even the Korthak Empire would fear. The real battle was just beginning. The first Korthak ships appeared at the edge of the Kepler system like dark insects against the stars. Yuna Kim watched from the colony's observation center as the enemy fleet dropped out of hyperspace. Even from this distance, the ships looked massive and threatening. "How many?" asked Hyun, standing beside her at the viewing screen. Yuna counted the bright dots on the scanner. 52 capital ships, maybe twice that number in smaller vessels. The Althari people of New Haven had spent their final hours in different ways. Some gathered in the temples to sing their ancient songs. Others worked in their gardens, tending to flowers that would bloom long after their creators were gone. Many simply held their children and shared gentle thoughts through their mind connection. Commander Kiwoo entered the observation center. He led what passed for New Haven's civil defense, a group of engineers and miners who had volunteered to coordinate evacuations. They had no weapons, no military training, but they refused to let their people face the end in chaos. "The deep caves are ready," Kiwoo reported. "We can hide maybe 50,000 people in the mining tunnels. The rest—" He didn't finish the sentence. "The rest hope the Korthak will be quick," Yuna said quietly. On the scanner, smaller dots separated from the main fleet, landing ships heading for the planet's surface. The bombardment would begin soon. "Elder Taiho wants to attempt communication," Kiwoo said. "He believes he can convince them to spare the civilians." Yuna turned from the screen. "The Korthak don't negotiate. They conquer. He knows that. But he wants to try anyway. It's who we are." Through the large windows, Yuna could see the beautiful spires of New Haven stretching toward the sky. The crystal towers caught the sunlight and threw rainbows across the city. Parks and gardens covered every building. Art galleries displayed the gentle beauty that the Althari created. All of it would be rubble soon. "Tell the elder I'll help with the communication," Yuna said. "Maybe my human heritage will make them listen." They made their way to the main communication center. Elder Tejo was already there, his silver face calm despite the approaching doom. Other Althari leaders had gathered, their large eyes reflecting fear and sadness. "Admiral Jisoo sends her regards," Tejo said as Yuna approached. "She wants to speak with their fleet commander." "There is no Admiral Jisoo here," Yuna said, confused. "The human ship that answered our distress call," Tejo explained. "They're coming to help us." Hope flickered in Yuna's chest, then died quickly. One ship? Against that entire fleet? "Sometimes courage matters more than numbers," Tejo said softly. Before Yuna could respond, the communication system activated. The harsh clicking voice of the Korthak commander filled the room. "Attention, colony vermin. Your time has ended. Surrender now and some of you may be allowed to work in our mines. Resist and we will burn your world to ash." Elder Tejo stepped forward to the communication device. His voice remained calm and gentle. "This is Elder Tejo of New Haven. We are a peaceful people. We have never harmed anyone. Please show mercy to our children and elders. Take what resources you need, but spare the innocent." Cruel laughter came through the speakers. "Mercy is weakness. Your pathetic race has made this world soft with your gardens and temples. We will remake it into something useful." "We can work together," Tejo continued. "Our people are skilled miners and engineers. We can help you extract the dilithium without destroying the ecosystem." "You misunderstand your situation, old fool. You have nothing to offer us but the crystals buried in your world. You are simply in the way." The first explosion shook the building. Outside the windows, a bright flash lit the sky as Korthak ships began their bombardment. The attack had begun. Alarms sounded throughout the city. Althari families ran through the streets, carrying children and elderly relatives toward the evacuation shelters. Their usual grace was replaced by panic and fear. "All defense units, this is Commander Kiwoo," came the announcement over the city's speakers. "Begin evacuation procedures. Get everyone to the deep shelters. We have maybe an hour before they land ground troops." Another explosion, much closer. Yuna looked out the window and saw one of the beautiful crystal spires collapse in a shower of sparkling debris. The sight was heartbreaking, like watching art itself die. "They're targeting our infrastructure first," Kiwoo reported. "Power plants, communication centers, transportation hubs. Standard conquest protocol." Elder Tejo continued trying to communicate with the Korthak fleet. "Please, Commander, we surrender. We offer no resistance. There's no need for this destruction." "There is every need," came the cold reply. "Your people's weakness disgusts us. We will cleanse this world of your influence before we take its resources." A new voice cut through the communication channel. This one was different. Not Korthak, but not Althari either. "Korthak fleet, this is Admiral Jisoo of the Human Expeditionary Force. You are attacking a peaceful civilian population. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Yuna's heart leaped. The humans had arrived. The Korthak commander's laughter was even crueler now. "One human ship? You dare threaten the might of the Empire with one vessel?" "I don't make threats," Admiral Jisoo replied calmly. "I make promises. Leave now or learn why humans are different from the Althari." "Different how, human?" "We bite back." The communication channel fell silent for a moment. Then the Korthak commander spoke again, his voice filled with anticipation. "Very well. We will destroy your ship first, then finish what we started with these pathetic creatures. It will be amusing to watch you die." More explosions rocked New Haven. Yuna could see fires starting across the city as Korthak bombardment continued. In the distance, dark shapes were descending through the atmosphere, landing ships full of enemy soldiers. "I have to help coordinate the evacuations," Commander Kiwoo said. "Get as many people to the caves as possible." He ran from the room, leaving Yuna alone with Elder Tejo and the other Althari leaders. Through their mind connection, she could feel their overwhelming sadness and fear. "Will the humans really fight for us?" asked one of the council members. "One ship against 50, another said. "It's impossible." Elder Tejo looked at Yuna with his large, gentle eyes. "What do you think, child? You know humans better than any of us." Yuna thought about her mother's stories. Tales of human soldiers who fought impossible battles. Explorers who faced unknown dangers. Ordinary people who became heroes when others needed them. "I think," she said slowly, that the Korthak are about to learn something about humanity that they won't like. Another explosion shook the building. Outside, the beautiful city of New Haven burned while its people fled in terror. The Korthak landing ships were almost on the ground now. But somewhere in the space above them, a lone human warship was preparing to show the universe that some lines should never be crossed. The peaceful Althari had believed no one would come to save them. They were about to discover that humans had a very different definition of impossible odds. Admiral Jisoo stood on the bridge of the HMS Indomitable, staring at the star charts displayed on the main screen. The experimental warship hummed with power around her, its quantum engines creating a gentle vibration through the deck plates. They were on patrol in the outer rim, far from Earth and the main shipping lanes. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Commander Jinwoo from the communication station, "we're picking up a distress signal, very faint coming from the Kepler system." Jisoo walked over to the station. She was a small woman, but her presence filled any room she entered. Scars on her face told the story of many battles fought in humanity's expansion into space. "Play it," she ordered. The speakers crackled with static. Then a young woman's voice came through. "This is New Haven Colony on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by the Korthak Empire. We are a peaceful people with no weapons. Please, if anyone receives this message, help us. We have 72 hours. The bridge fell silent. Every crew member knew about the Korthak Empire. They were one of the most dangerous forces in this part of the galaxy, with a fleet that outnumbered most civilizations. How long ago was this sent?" Jisoo asked. "Signal analysis shows it was transmitted 54 hours ago," Jinwoo replied. "If they had 72 hours when they sent it, they have 18 hours left." Captain Minho approached from the tactical station. He was Jisoo's second in command, a brilliant strategist who could see patterns in battle that others missed. "Admiral, I've run the numbers," he said quietly. "Kepler 442 is 6 hours away at maximum speed. But intelligence reports show the Korthak have committed a full battle fleet to this operation, 50 capital ships plus escorts and support vessels. And we have one ship," Jisoo said. "Yes, Admiral. The Indomitable is the most advanced vessel in the human fleet. But against those numbers..." Minho left the sentence unfinished. Dr. So-young looked up from her research station. She was the ship's xenobiologist and expert on alien cultures. "Admiral, I know about the Althari. They're completely peaceful. They've never hurt anyone. If the Korthak are attacking them, it's only for resources." "What kind of resources?" Jisoo asked. "Dilithium crystals, most likely. The Althari use them for power generation, but they're also essential for advanced weapons systems. The Korthak probably want them for their war machine." Jisoo stared at the distress signal's location on the star chart. 18 hours. Not much time to save an entire world. "Admiral," Minho said carefully, "I need to say this. This would be a suicide mission. We can't win against 50 Korthak ships. We'd be throwing away the most advanced vessel humanity has ever built. And her crew," added Dr. So-young softly. Jisoo looked around the bridge. These people trusted her with their lives. They had families back on Earth, dreams and hopes for the future. She had no right to ask them to die for strangers on a distant world. "What do you think the Korthak will do to the Althari?" she asked Dr. So-young. "Complete extermination," the doctor replied without hesitation. "The Korthak don't take prisoners from peaceful species. They see kindness as weakness. They'll kill everyone, strip mine the planet, and move on to the next target. How many Althari live on that world?" "The colony has approximately 2 million inhabitants, all civilians." Jisoo closed her eyes and thought about her duty. She was a human fleet admiral, sworn to protect humanity's interests. Kepler 442b was not a human world. The smart tactical decision was to ignore the distress call and continue their patrol. But she also thought about what made humanity different from species like the Korthak. Humans had always fought for the underdog, protected the weak, stood up to bullies even when the odds were impossible. "All hands, this is the Admiral," she said into the ship's communication system. "We have received a distress call from a peaceful colony under attack by the Korthak Empire. I won't lie to you, the odds are terrible. We're one ship against their entire battle fleet. Anyone who wants to object to this mission should speak now." The bridge was silent. Throughout the ship, the crew listened to their captain's words. No one spoke against the mission. "Very well," Jisoo said. "Captain Minho, set course for Kepler 442b maximum speed." "Yes, Admiral," Minho replied. though worry showed in his eyes. As the Indomitable turned toward the Kepler system, Dr. Soyoung began preparing detailed files on Althari culture and physiology. If they were going to risk their lives for these people, they needed to understand them. The Althari are telepathic, she explained to the senior officers gathered in the briefing room. They share emotions and thoughts with each other. This makes them incredibly peaceful, but also vulnerable to psychological warfare. What about their technology level? Asked Chief Engineer Nari. Advanced in some areas, primitive in others. They have excellent medical technology and energy systems, but no weapons. They've never needed them. Until now, Minho said grimly. Lieutenant Commander Jinwoo studied the tactical reports. The Korthak fleet includes 12 dreadnoughts, 28 cruisers, and support vessels. Their standard battle doctrine relies on overwhelming firepower and intimidation. They've never fought humans before, Jisoo said. That might be our only advantage. What's the plan, Admiral? Nari asked. Jisoo looked at the faces around the table. These were good people, the best humanity had to offer. They deserved a plan that gave them some chance of survival. We'll use Protocol Ragnarok, she said finally. The room fell silent. Protocol Ragnarok was the most extreme tactical doctrine in the Human Fleet Handbook. It prioritized maximum enemy casualties over ship survival. It was designed for situations where defeat was certain, but the enemy needed to pay the highest possible price. Admiral, Minho said slowly, that protocol assumes we won't survive the battle. Do you see another option? Jisoo asked. No one answered. Then we make sure the Korthak remember this day, she continued. We show them that attacking peaceful worlds comes with a cost. Maybe the next time they consider genocide, they'll think twice. The Indomitable raced through space toward Kepler 442b. In the engine room, Nari pushed the quantum drives beyond their safety limits. On the weapons deck, Jinwoo prepared the experimental armaments that made their ship unique. Throughout the ship, crew members wrote letters to their families, said prayers to whatever gods they believed in, and prepared for battle. They all knew the odds. They all understood what they were flying toward. But they also knew that some fights were worth fighting regardless of the outcome. The peaceful Althari had sent one desperate message into the void, believing no one would answer. They were about to learn that sometimes, when all hope is lost, humanity arrives with teeth and claws, ready to remind the universe that kindness deserves protection no matter the cost. The morning sun cast long shadows across the crystal spires of New Haven Colony. Yuna Kim stood on the observation deck of the administrative building, watching the peaceful streets below. The Althari people moved with their usual grace, their silver skin gleaming in the light. Children played in the parks while adults tended to the beautiful gardens that covered every building. Yuna touched the communication device on her wrist. As the colony administrator, she handled all contact with other worlds. Today felt different, though. Something in the air made her nervous. The Althari were a gentle people. They could speak with their minds, sharing thoughts and feelings with each other. This made them kind and understanding, but also made them weak when faced with danger. They had never known war or violence. Yuna was different. Her mother had been human, her father Althari. This made her special on this world, but also alone. She could not fully connect with the Althari mind speak, and she remembered stories her mother told about Earth and humanity. The communication device buzzed loudly. Yuna pressed the button and heard static. Then a cold, harsh voice filled the air. Attention, colony of New Haven. This is Fleet Commander Vex of the Korthak Empire. You will listen carefully. Yuna's blood turned cold. She had heard of the Korthak Empire. They were insect-like creatures who conquered worlds for resources. They showed no mercy and took what they wanted by force. Your world contains dilithium crystals that belong to the Empire. You have 72 hours to surrender all mining operations and submit to Imperial rule. If you refuse, we will destroy your colony and take the crystals from your dead world. The message ended with a harsh clicking sound. Yuna stared at the device in horror. 72 hours. 3 days before the Althari would face complete destruction. She ran through the building, her heart pounding. The Althari workers looked up in confusion as she passed. They had heard the message through their mind connection, but they did not understand what it meant. Elder Taiho, Yuna called as she entered the council chamber. The old Althari leader sat in meditation, his large eyes closed in peace. I felt your fear through the connection, Taiho said softly. What troubles you, child? The Korthak Empire is coming, Yuna said, trying to keep her voice steady. They want our dilithium mines. They give us 3 days to surrender or they will kill everyone. Taiho opened his eyes slowly. Perhaps we can speak with them. Show them that we mean no harm. Surely they will understand that we are a peaceful people. Yuna shook her head. Elder, you don't understand. The Korthak don't care about peace. They only care about power and resources. They have destroyed hundreds of worlds. Other council members began entering the chamber. Hyun, a young engineer and Yuna's closest friend, sat beside her. His silver face showed worry. What can we do? Hyun asked. We have no weapons, no soldiers. We are miners and farmers, not warriors. We could hide in the deep caves, suggested another council member. Wait until they leave. They won't leave, Yuna said firmly. They will strip mine the entire planet. Nothing will survive. The council fell silent. Through their mind connection, Yuna could feel their growing fear and confusion. They had never faced anything like this before. We must send a message to other worlds, Yuna said. Ask for help. Who would help us? Taiho asked sadly. We are far from the major trade routes. The nearest civilized system is months away. Someone might come, Yuna said, though she felt doubt in her heart. We have to try. She went to the communication center and began sending distress signals to every frequency she knew. Her message was simple. This is New Haven Colony on Kepler 442b. We are under attack by the Korthak Empire. We are a peaceful people with no weapons. Please, if anyone receives this message, help us. We have 72 hours. Hours passed. No one answered. The Althari began to panic as the reality of their situation became clear. Some families started packing their belongings, though they had nowhere to go. Others gathered in the temples to pray to their ancient spirits. Hyun found Yuna in the communication center still sending messages. Any response? He asked. Nothing, Yuna replied. The signals are going out, but space is vast. Even if someone wants to help, they might not reach us in time. Do you think we should surrender? Hyun asked quietly. Yuna thought about her mother's stories of humanity. Humans never surrendered easily. They fought even when they couldn't win, but the Althari were not human. I don't know, she said honestly. The Korthak might let some of us live as slaves, but they might kill us anyway. Night fell over New Haven. The beautiful lights of the city still glowed, but they felt cold now. Families stayed close together, sharing their fear through their mind connection. Yuna walked through the empty streets. She passed the school where Althari children learned about art and music. She passed the hospital where gentle healers cared for the sick. She passed the marketplace where friends met to share stories and laughter. All of this would be gone in 3 days. At the edge of the city, she found Elder Taiho standing alone, looking up at the stars. Do you think anyone heard our message? He asked. I hope so, Yuna said, but we can't count on it. We need to prepare for the worst. How does one prepare to die? Taiho asked sadly. My mother told me stories, Yuna said. She said humans believe that how you face death matters more than death itself. That courage in the final moment gives meaning to a whole life. Your mother was wise, Taiho said. But we are not warriors, Yuna. We are gardeners and dreamers. Then we'll face this as gardeners and dreamers, Yuna said. We'll show the universe that gentleness has value, even if it can't protect us. They stood together in silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, the Korthak fleet was coming. Somewhere else, perhaps someone had heard their cry for help. But as the hours passed and no answer came, hope began to fade. The Althari of New Haven prepared to meet their fate alone, believing that no one in the vast, cold universe cared enough to save them. They had no idea that their message had reached ears that understood the value of protecting the innocent, no matter the cost.